Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Very good. Welcome to you all. Welcome also to all of you watching this satsang online. We have a lot of great questions here. I'm rather dizzy today, so we may cut this a little short. We'll see how it goes. The dizziness makes me quite tired. But we'll get started and see, are we streaming here? That looks okay. All right. So the first question is from Prasanna. Yeah, Prasanna, who I'm looking to see. It doesn't say where Prasanna lives. Prasanna asks, we often discuss the sukshma sharira, or subtle body, which we, in Advaita Vedanta, we discuss to clarify what is Atma and what is not Atma. That which enlivens your body is not Atma. Body obviously is not Atma, but that which makes your body alive is also not Atma. That includes your mental faculties, your sense faculties, and your life force, prana. And that's Prasanna's question. What is the relationship between prana or life force and a subtle body? A subtle body, or sukshma sharira, is composed of several different elements, one of which is prana. In fact, pancha prana, 5 kinds of prana. This is an ancient worldview. We need not get into the details of it right now. But we can say that what is considered to be the subtle body, and to put it in context, at the time of death, what happens to the physical body, we know very well. What happens to the subtle body, it is a subtle body that is said to travel, leaving the old body behind and taking on a new body. Let me point out that that is part of an elaborate belief system that we call the doctrine of karma. We can't prove it, we can't disprove it. It's part of an ancient worldview. That ancient worldview comes along with this Vedantic package, so we understand it as such. And just to complete that thought, what happens to the physical body at death, we understand. What happens to the subtle body, it travels. What happens to Atma at the time of death? Good. Some of you are shaking your heads. Absolutely correct. And that's it. Nothing at all happens to Atma at the time of death. So, short answer to Prasanna's question is the subtle body is composed of several different aspects, including all your mental faculties, all your sense faculties, your powers of movement, and also the pancha prana, the 5 kinds of life force, are included as part of that subtle body. Next question from Arun, who lives in Bangalore. In an earlier satsang, I mentioned that practicing both Ramana Maharshi's self-inquiry and Vedantic self-inquiry both work. Can you narrate how, and it goes on into that. I think there's some, there's often some confusion where Ramana's who am I method fits in with the traditional teachings of Advaita Vedanta. Well, tell me, in the traditional teachings of Advaita Vedanta, do we ever inquire, who am I? It's an important inquiry. is a really important inquiry. So it's important, we should understand that Ramana's teachings are not in any way at all separate from Advaita Vedanta. However, and this might be a reference to what Arun might be referring to, something I've said before, Ramana's teachings are not identical to Advaita Vedanta either. In fact, a good way to relate them, some of you like mathematics? How about if we consider Ramana's teachings to be a subset of the teachings of Advaita Vedanta? Remember those Venn diagrams? So if this is Advaita Vedanta, this is Ramana. So let Ramana's teachings be a subset of the teachings of and when I say subset, I mean to say that Ramana used certain teaching methodologies. We call them prakriyas. And definitely who am I is the prakriya that he's best known for. Advaita Vedanta includes many prakriyas that Ramana may not have used, or may have used in a different way or a tangential way. So a subset in that sense. Next question comes from Aditya. Aditya asks, is trying to better ourselves in all possible spheres of our lives always a valid pursuit? Self-improvement. And there's quite a bit of text here I won't get into. On the surface, pursuing this self-improvement seems noble, but being human, I fall short on nearly all aspects of this self-improvement. As a result, I often feel anxious of the thought of just how much there still is for me to improve upon myself. I think some of you can see what's going on here. Is there a value for self-improvement? Of course. In the most general sense, the purpose of life is to grow in every dimension, including emotionally. Emotional growth would be part of that growth. Intellectual growth, obviously spiritual growth. And we can say self-improvement is a matter of growth. Self-improvement is, in my opinion, fundamental to life. The problem comes, I feel anxious of the thought of how much there still is for me to improve upon myself. The problem here has nothing to do with growth. The problem here has to do with self-judgment. None of us are perfect. All of us have major flaws, and no amount of self-improvement will make us perfect. You've heard me joke before, if you want a perfect body, should you go to the gym for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week? When will your body be perfect? Bodies can never be perfect. So then, when will your mind be perfect? When will your emotions be perfect? The human condition is flawed by nature and can never be perfected. Improved, yes. Perfected, never. So, when it comes to this matter of self-judgment, we need to keep that in mind, that there's only so much that can be done in terms of self-improvement. Another problem, and Arun didn't mention this, and Aditya is asking this question. This is probably not Aditya's problem, but it is for many when it comes to self-judgment. The cousin of self-judgment is comparison with others. right? We compare ourselves, oh, that person is so smart, oh, that person is so much like this or like that. So based on comparison with others, we judge ourselves. That's obviously not helpful. That's a problem. Next question from Sheila, who also lives in Bangalore. Sheila asks, what is complete surrender? Now, it's a little tricky to answer Sheila's question because she doesn't give a context. So, every scripture will present surrender in a certain concept. The Bhagavata Purana presents surrender in one context. The Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna presents surrender in a different context. But since I'm a teacher of Advaita Vedanta, allow me to give a Advaita Vedanta context of surrender. What is surrender from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta? Surrender means what? Means to give up. Give up means completely give up, right? If you surrender on a battlefield, you go to the other side. You don't come back. And the point I'm making, and just to show what is not surrender, and what is not surrender is when somebody goes to a temple, falls at the altar in tears, and says, "Oh Lord, I surrender myself to you utterly." And then they walk out of the temple, and that emotion evaporates. They reneged on their surrender. That's not surrender. If surrender means to give, you don't take it back. So now to take that understanding from a Advaitic standpoint, what does it mean to give up and not take back from the standpoint of Advaita Vedanta? I give up this body. This body is not me. And I'm not taking it back. Sorry, bad joke. Anyway, but you get the point. Through the teachings of Advaita Vedanta, you discern, this is not me. And that discernment is a matter of knowledge. Ignorance is followed by knowledge. Knowledge is not followed by ignorance. So you don't renege on this realization. Once you get it, the body is not me, there's no going back on that. That's surrender, full and complete. The body is not me. Prana is not me. My faculties of motion are not me. The life force that enlivens my body is not me. My mental faculties are not me. My sense faculties are not me. What's left? Everything is given up. This is surrender from an Advaita Vedanta standpoint. Now you can say, well, that sounds so intellectual. Surrender is usually in the context of bhakti, and definitely we can put a bhakti spin on this topic, so to speak. And that is, this body doesn't belong to me, belongs to Ishvara. The prana that enlivens this body doesn't belong to me, belongs to Ishvara. My sense faculties and mental faculties belong to Ishvara. Everything belongs to Ishvara. So that would be a perspective on surrender from an Advaita Vedanta standpoint. Of course, as I said, in the Bhagavata Purana and the Bhagavad Gita, you'll find much more said about it, and often from deeply devotional perspectives. But we've chosen this very Advaita perspective for today. Okay, a question here from Jay, who lives in New York. What is the line between accepting impermanence and allowing things, accepting impermanence and allowing things to change, as opposed to being engaged, active, to prevent things from changing, so that you preserve things? Yes, it's abstract. So let's give an example. I never thought about this example. In the world of art, you have beautiful old artworks. Like if you imagine going to a temple that's hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you'll see these amazing murals painted on the walls. And of course, these murals are hundreds of years old, and the paint starts to chip off. So now the question and by the way, this is a metaphor for life, right? So that mural represents some aspect of your life or some aspect of the world. So take it as a metaphor. So the question is, what to do about that mural that's falling, that's chipping off from the wall of this temple? So should you preserve it, if preserving means replacing the old paint with brand new, shiny, glossy, artificial looking, chemical-based paint, as opposed to the old plant-based pigments that were probably used on that. So the conservator will say, if you want to preserve this mural, we have to use modern methods, modern materials, modern techniques, or it will eventually be gone. So that's option one, is let's bring out the chemical-based paints and let's redo it. What is in option two? There might be options in between, but we'll take the extremes. Option two is, this is art. And art decays. In fact, isn't part of the beauty of ancient artworks, isn't part of the beauty their state of partial decay? I think so. Complete decay is another story, but partial decay kind of adds something. It adds that sense of antiquity to the work, and it then increases our value and appreciation for that work. So then you can make the opposite argument, don't touch it. Now, which path to follow in life? When we see things in life decaying around us, should we step in and use all modern technologies and techniques to improve them, even if it means wiping out what had been there in the past? Or should we just allow everything to descend into chaos? And it's the same thing. The answer depends. There's no fixed answer to this question. You can't say A or B. You can explore options in between, but one thing is for sure, and that is, it depends on the particular situation. Some artworks might require, some temple murals might require one approach. Other temple murals might require another approach. So it depends on the situation. I think that metaphor applies to all situations in life. When should you intervene and when should you be accepting? And the answer is, it depends, but it doesn't depend on your mood. There are some people who have a mood. What kind of mood? In India, they call it chalta hai. Yeah, let it be. That's a certain attitude. If that attitude rules your life, that's not appropriate, because some situations require you to be highly engaged. So let the situation determine your response. Instead of having a predetermined response, so you're going to repaint every mural in every temple in India, or you're not going to touch any mural in any temple in India, these two extreme positions. Why adopt such a position? Why not keep your mind open and respond to every situation according to the demands of the situation? That's what a wise person will do. Okay. We have some more questions here. Do we have any questions from our local students? Nothing? Anything today? Okay. Then we'll take some more questions here. This question comes from Evan, who lives in Pennsylvania, not far from here. Evan asks, I have a fairly clear understanding of the subtle body, sukshma sharira, that we just discussed, but I don't really understand what the causal body is, karana sharira. In Sanskrit, we differentiate three. The physical body, stula sharira. Stula means physical. Stula sharira, physical body. Sukshma sharira. Here sukshma means non-physical. And then we have the third, karana sharira, which means causal body. So first of all, to call them sharira or body is to call this one stula sharira, to call it a body is okay. Sukshma sharira, does it have a physical shape? What is the shape of your thoughts? Is it in the shape of a physical body? Your faculties your sense faculties, your prana, it doesn't really have any shape or form. So we use the term body kind of metaphorically. It's an expression. Don't take it literally. And that applies also to karana sharira. It's not actually a body. To call it a sharira or body is just an expression. Then what is it? Karana sharira is the cause for the stula and sukshma. That's why we call it causal body. Cause for what? The cause for the sukshma and stula sharira. What is the cause? Right now, you're sitting in a chair or you're watching this video. What is the cause for the existence of your stula and sukshma sharira from the standpoint of Advaita Vedanta? And this is a big discussion. I don't think we're going to get into it right now. But the simple answer is the ultimate cause for the existence of your presence here is ignorance. If you were enlightened, you would not have been reborn, right? The fact that we're sitting here means, at least in our prior lives, we were not enlightened, means ignorance. Due to ignorance, we got reborn. So, simply put, karana sharira is ignorance. There's a huge and technical discussion that goes along with this topic. We're going to set that aside. But the simple it's easy enough to understand. Ignorance is the cause. The karana sharira is simply ignorance. Remember, I told this joke before. I'll tell it right now, just because I like this joke. When I was a young man, starting to read all these books printed in India, I got really confused by all the books that were referring to the gross body. And in American English, the word gross has a different meaning, right? So I'm wondering, why are they calling the body gross? That's my first question. And then subtle body. What is subtle about the mind? I didn't think the mind was subtle at all. But then what really threw me for a loop is when these books talked about the casual body. In Indian English, causal gets mispronounced and miswritten as casual. And not just in one book. In book after book after book, I kept seeing this casual body. What is this casual body? Anyway, it's a nice memory from those days. Okay, a couple more questions. No, we will keep this session a little short today. That was Evan's question, then from Amit, who lives in India. This is quite thoughtful, so let me read his words. They're carefully written. Amit writes, in life, when we are young, we feel like the world revolves around us. We can make things happen by our hard work. We like to be in control of things. But as we age, we discover that the world doesn't revolve around us. We're not in control of all situations. We don't know if we'll be alive tomorrow or not. So acceptance or surrender happens. It says, more out of a lack of control than out of some kind of profound, graceful acceptance. We get into a sort of witness mode, sakshi bhava, beaten down by situations rather than by choice. So Amit's question is, and by the way, I think that's very thoughtful, what he's written here. It describes some of the complexity of life and how we evolve with age. And the changes are dramatic in terms of how we thought when we were young and how our thinking changes as the decades pass. So Amit's question then, based on this, how to be more graceful in living rather than stumble through life. I like the phrasing of that question. How to be more graceful in living rather than stumble through life. Let's look at this briefly. Now, at our almost all of us sitting here are a little older. Most of you watching this will be a little older. So if you have the wisdom of age, how did you get that wisdom? One of the main ways we gain wisdom is by making mistakes and learning from our mistakes. Is it not true? We all make lots and lots of mistakes, and we learn so much from those mistakes. That's stumbling through life. But isn't that stumbling through life part of our process of learning and growth? Imagine someone who grows up in a wealthy, pampered family doesn't have to struggle with anything, would they have grown as much in that pampered environment as they might have grown outside of that pampered environment? You get the point. And what I'm leading up to is stumbling through life is a good thing. Because through our stumbles, through our mistakes, through bumping into other people and situations, we learn. We learn a lot. How to be more graceful in living? How about to accept how natural it is to stumble, or even to enjoy our stumbles? I know enjoy is perhaps too strong a word. At least to accept. Yes, we make mistakes and we have problems, and we have grown so much as a result of our mistakes and those problems. Therefore, problems and mistakes are, if you call them stumbles, fine, but they have good outcomes in the long run. In the short run, miserable. In the long run, good outcomes, we grow from them. And since they have good outcomes, we can accept them. So let us accept stumbling through. Let us stumble through life. Let me rephrase this. How to be more graceful in living rather than stumble through life. How about this? Let us stumble through life gracefully. There you have it. we can all learn to do that. Okay, just a couple more questions and we'll keep this short today. This is from Thakur. Thakur lives in Pondicherry. And he's referring to last week's satsang, where we talked about the relationship between modern science and Advaita Vedanta. Some of you will remember that discussion in which I suggested that the very concept of Sukshma Sharira is non-scientific, and Vedanta could actually be taught without the idea of a Sukshma Sharira. It's kind of a carryover from a past time. Vedanta, the subject matter of Advaita Vedanta is not Sukshma Sharira or subtle or Stula Sharira. The subject matter is your true nature as Satchidananda Atma, which has nothing to do with Sukshma Sharira. Anyway, that was a prior discussion. So, looking at then the relationship between Advaita Vedanta and modern science, Thakur asks, isn't it physical objective principles of modern science, are they not approaching tangibly the threshold of eternal, all-pervasive, infinite nature of Brahman? Surely it is, if I am allowed to say so. You're certainly allowed to say so, but I'm afraid I might have an answer that you might find disappointing. I apologize in advance if you find my answer disappointing. And it has to do with the very nature of science, which Thakur correctly says, physical objective properties of science. Principles. Physical objective principles. Science deals with physical objective principles. That which is physical, that which is objective. That which is physical means that which exists in the world. By the way, physical doesn't mean tangible or visible. You can't see these little particles. No one can see an electron. So, but electrons exist as physical entities, even though an electron does not even exist in a particular location at a particular point in time. So quantum science has it that electrons exist as, oh, you'll love this. I'm saying sarcastically. You'll love this, that electrons exist according to probability waves, which means an electron is 90% possibly here, 80% possibly here, 20% possibly here, 0% possibly here. And where is it 100% possible? Nowhere. You cannot say. Until you make the measurement and that probability wave collapses in the language of modern science. Anyway, now I'm boring you completely. So let me stop here. This is physical science, dealing with stuff of nature. It's also objective, and these are the words that Thakur himself used, physical objective principles. Objective means not subjective. You are the subject. Everything else is an object. Remember what you learned in a grammar class? Subjective case, I, me. That's it. Everything else is not I or me. So it's objective in some sense. So science doesn't deal, by definition, since science is objective, as Thakur says, therefore science doesn't deal with I or me. Science deals with not I, not me. So, given this understanding of science that deals with physical entities in the world and deals with not I, not me, how can that science approach the threshold of eternal, all-pervasive, infinite nature of Brahman? I think I see this. I see the problem. Out there is an all-eternal, infinite, out there, I'm just imagining what is the basis for Thakur's question. And I could be wrong, here's what I imagine. Thakur might imagine that out there is an eternal, all-pervasive, infinite Brahman. And science is coming closer and closer and closer to discovering that eternal, all-pervasive, infinite Brahman out there. But that's not what the ancient rishis taught. That's not Vedanta. That's not what the Upanishads say. What do the Upanishads say? Aham Brahmasmi. Brahman is me. Aham asmi. I am Brahman. And to make sure this isn't theoretical, Brahman is discovered through a process of introspection called Atma Vichara, when you discover the reality of yourself and you discover the reality of who you are is the reality of the cosmos. That is the discovery of Brahman. You discover, first of all, your attention is not turned outwards, externally, as it is in science. You said physical. So to observe the world means an external, extrovert orientation. But here, the ancient sages said, no, you have to be looking within. And then further, science is looking at objects. And the ancient rishis said, aham asmi, subject. So when we understand what the sages really taught, Brahman is not a reality out there that's available for science to discover. Brahman is the fundamental reality because of which everything exists. Brahman is a reality because of which you exist, and that Brahman can be discovered only by looking within. Because Brahman, let me just end with this observation. Thakur says all-pervasive. Fine. Brahman being all-pervasive, but where is that all-pervasive Brahman available for discovery? I'll say that again. Brahman is all-pervasive. But where can that all-pervasive Brahman be discovered? The ancient rishis said, aham brahmasmi. That all-pervasive Brahman indeed is present throughout the cosmos, but can only be discovered within. Okay, last question. Question comes from Janardhan, who lives in Kochi, South India. Actually, it's a series of questions about the doctrine of karma. Janardhan asks, when any person or living object or person, well, let's stay with person. When any person is born, will there be a predefined end of life for that person? So according to the doctrine of karma, you are born because of your prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means a portion of the unfructified deeds you've committed in past lives. A portion of that karma results in this life. And that portion is finite. So as these past karmas get fructified in this life, the length of this life grows shorter and shorter until all the karmas which determined this life, all the prarabdha karmas, when all the prarabdha karmas are exhausted, this life comes to an end. The ancient yogis put it in different language. The same thing, different language. They said, you are born with the number of breaths you will breathe predetermined. But the number of breaths, don't take it mechanically. The number of breaths is a metaphoric reference to prarabdha karma. So yes, you are born with a specific that is, if you live a normal, healthy life, the end of your natural life is predetermined by karma. Then we continue. If there is one, is the end, if there is a predetermined end of life, and the answer is yes, is the end of life determined by Brahman or by karma? We just said. But he says by karma accumulated by them in the past and the present life. That's a good point. Because karma isn't only past karma. What about the karmas you do in this life? So if you have past karmas, which determine that you should live until you're 90 years old, and you spend your entire life smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol and not exercising, do you think your lifestyle might have an effect on how long you live? Absolutely. So that's current karma. So we can say that the length of your life is determined by karma, but not just past karmas. Present karmas also. By the way, that also means, presumably, if you were born with karmas to live only to the age of 60, presumably, if you live a really healthy life, perhaps that could be extended. Why not? Past karmas, and it's not past karmas or present karmas, it's past karmas and present karmas. If there is a predefined end of life for people, then what is the roles doctors play in saving their lives by giving treatment? Well, it's not only your present karmas will affect you, but other people's karmas can also affect you. If someone pulls out a gun and shoots a bullet, do you think that might affect your longevity? So I shouldn't make a joke about something that's really quite serious and tragic, but you get the point. It's not only your present karmas that can affect your life, but the karmas of others as well. The example Janardhan gives is fortunately a pleasant example. So a doctor, if suppose due to your prarabdha karmas, you have cancer, and you are likely to die in 1 year. And we can say that's as determined by your past karmas. But then the doctor can intervene and put you on the whole thing of surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and all of that. And instead of dying in 1 year, you live another 20. Why not? Present karmas also have an effect. Because whether they get treatment or not, their existence is guaranteed until their predefined end of life. The end of life is not guaranteed. So this is a mistake. There's this concept, a very typical Hindu concept of karma rekha, the line of karma, written on your forehead at the time of your birth. And it determines everything that's going to happen in your life, and it determines the end of your life. And this, in technical American language, is BS. There is no such thing as a predetermined anything. The whole doctrine of karma is against predestination. Predestination or predetermination is a concept that is actually foreign to the Hindu tradition. And there's just a little bit of a side comment. Many Hindus have ascribed to these beliefs in predetermination or predestination. I would suggest, I can't prove this, but I don't think it can be disproved. I would suggest that the presence of Islam in India for hundreds and hundreds of years, it has rubbed off, so to speak, on Hindu culture and has influenced how many, many Hindus think. So from a scriptural understanding of the doctrine of karma, there is no room for anything to be predetermined or predestined. Everything is based on karma. karma is based on free will. Without free will, there's no karma. Without karma, there's no doctrine of karma, and this whole discussion becomes moot. Okay. So with that, I think we'll end a little early today. Let me remind you, please send your questions to me, but be sure you put satsang question in the subject field. Otherwise, I don't know. It's confusing. We'll conclude with a prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschad Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Om. That's it. See you next time.